How do you control stress? How do you manage stage fright? How do you get rid of all those typical symptoms? Sweaty palms, shaky voice, uncertainty around what to say next, the imposter syndrome that so many of us experience on stage, especially before important performances, important presentations. Well, I've got good news and bad news for you. Let's start with bad news. There's no easy way around it. There's no magic trick that will help you all of a sudden make the entire sensation of stress disappear overnight. That's bad news, but the good news partly compensates for that. It's all in the attitude. It's all a projection of your attitude towards your audience, and more specifically, perhaps, your expectations towards both yourself and the audience. So if your primary expectation is that you will fail, something negative, disappointing, critical may actually happen, then it will happen, or you increase the probability of this happening. It's all about what you tell yourself and how you explain yourself any given situation on stage. If you think that your audience's primary instinct will be to criticize you, to look for mistakes, failures, to expect all the bad things to happen on stage, you program your brain to think that way, and all of your cognitive responses will be negative as well. If, on the other hand, you do something completely different, understand that it's a privileged position to be in front of all those people. They're actually your friends, your colleagues at work, acquaintances, people you've known for years often. And you're in a privileged role where you can share something with them, where you are in a position to talk to all of them at once. It's a privilege, isn't it? But of course, this doesn't exclude the value and the importance of preparation, not over-preparation, mind you, preparation. Try never to over-prepare, in the sense, do not learn things by heart too much, like paragraph after paragraph after paragraph. Instead, make sure you build a mind map of general ideas, a clear structure of where you want to go next and why. You need to make your story unfold in a manner that is logical and self-explanatory, well argued. So put a lot of emphasis on that part of your preparations, drafting the reasoning in your speech. A useful exercise for any good speech in any good conference would be to always start with the most important thing that you want to share with the audience, and then reverse engineer, so to say, go backwards. Why? Because every time you stand on the stage in front of a large audience, there is this critical moment when you build your own sense of comfort. What do I mean by sense of comfort? You build your rapport with the audience, so you're instinctively waiting for the very first positive reaction. That's why people often start with questions addressed directly to the audience. That's why people are waiting for the very first trace of positive energy, a short laughter, or some response to a quick joke that you might want to start your presentation with. Now, is this a good idea, to start a presentation with a question? Every time people ask me this, my answer, to your surprise perhaps, would be not necessarily. I've long believed it's important to first earn a sense of credibility about what you're saying to your audience, and only then ask questions. So you have this short period of time at the beginning to make sure the audience considers you someone worthy of their attention, someone who has something meaningful, potentially impactful, relatable maybe, to say to them, to make them realize, know, or understand something they hadn't understood before you came on stage. These are really important factors. So again, going back to a specific hint, recommendation. Regardless of how much time you have on stage, whether it's 5 minutes, 15 minutes, or 50 minutes, it's always a good idea to start with the most important insight. You can call it impress your audience, but it doesn't need to be impress per se. It needs to be a sign of respect that you actually have for those hundreds of people gathered in the auditorium. And how do you demonstrate your respect to your audience? Through the quality of your content, through the discipline of your structure, through the clarity of your thinking, by avoiding fluff, by avoiding things that are absolutely unnecessary. And trust me, every time I work with CEOs, board members of companies and corporations, and they show me a presentation that they've been working on for days and weeks, sometimes with entire teams supporting them, like public affairs, PR, marketing, the request that they hear quite often is, what would happen if we get rid of the first 5 minutes of what you've just prepared and showed me? And initially, the reaction is on the defensive side. What do you mean by that? It's important that I first introduce myself. It's important that I talk about the background of my department, the team I work with, and the overall goals and values and objectives and projections our company has. No, it's not. If you're at a professional event, industry conference, you can safely assume that the audience is there because they know the program, the agenda of the conference. They've read it on the webpage, which also happens to include your bio, your detailed background, and maybe even contains a link or two to additional information about you, your company, etc. So please assume that you're dealing with a smart, intelligent, well-versed audience. Don't start by saying things that will be inevitably boring. Don't forget we're living in the age of social media, the Instagrams, the TikToks of this world, which effectively means that it's important that you focus your audience's attention very early on. And by very early on, I mean literally the very first sentences. Going back to the sources and reasons of why we experience stress, it's all about self-perception and the way you understand your place right there, right then, on stage. So if your expectations are that things are going to fail, I'm going to be a disappointment, that the probability of me failing is very high, or that I'm even perhaps not the right person in the right place, then you program your mind to fail. But if, on the other hand, you recognize and acknowledge the fact that it's ultimately a huge privilege to be there, and someone has nominated, chosen, selected you for all the right reasons to be the one talking to a large audience of people, then just acknowledge the fact that it's a privilege. It's something you may actually want and enjoy. So the only challenge for you will be to polish the quality of your content, give it the right kind of structure. How do I do that? Take yourself as a point of reference. If you imagine the most cynical, skeptical version of yourself, frustrated, annoyed, listen to someone talking to you on stage, imagine that the task at hand is to create the kind of structure of your presentation that would impress you, that would make you feel that it's actually fresh, new. Say only those things that pass through the filter of the skeptics or the cynics' outlook.